this Professor Anton video. It's just getting so bad. I mean, it's just so convoluted and wishy-washy and mishy-mushy, and say one thing and then say exactly the opposite on top of it. I mean, man. So now he's saying there's an asymmetry, some sort of conflict between suffering and meaning. Right on its face, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, everything that we do that gives something, that makes an act meaningful, is the fact that it provides comfort. Everything. You don't do something unless it's providing somebody comfort. That's it. That's it. It's either going to provide you comfort or it's going to provide somebody else comfort. Not a complex equation. So, an asymmetry between meaning and comfort? No. And that's all you're saying here. There's suffering and meaning. I mean, suffering is what is the obstacle. The major obstacle to comfort is suffering. Duh. Anyway, this is just... know why I'm making the video? I saw this 14 likes, 0 dislikes, and I said, I gotta make the video because this is just bullshit. This cotton candy, pseudo-religious crap that atheists will eat. You know, I mean, these are atheists who are eating this shit. Dew in the morning. I mean, she knows who Charles Darwin is. What the fuck is she talking about? I mean, look. Biological evolution has led to living beings valuing their own lives, parents valuing their children's lives as well. Well, I mean, quite obviously, valuing their own lives is just duh, but they're valuing their welfare. The animals aren't biologically thinking about their longevity. They're thinking about how they feel. So again, you're just lying your way past the reality of the suffering and lying your way past that it's about something's welfare. And we're smart enough to know the end game. An animal is not. If an animal knew it could alleviate its suffering by just falling off the cliff and getting it over with, you don't think they'd be jumping off cliffs too? I mean, come on. Let's see. Scientists, I love this part. You mean pseudoscientists, have clearly shown mechanisms which lead people to have a value for the welfare of others. Well, that sentence doesn't even say anything. It's so convoluted. Mechanisms which lead people to have value for the welfare of others? You mean, you mean their own race? Oh, yeah, they do that. You mean their own home team? Oh, yeah, they do that. You mean their nation? Oh, yeah, they do that. You mean their state? You mean their community? You mean their town? You mean their kind? Oh, yeah, they do all that crap. I don't think that's a good thing. That's why suicide is important to other people. That's why suicide is important to other people, to society as a whole. Well, that sentence makes absolutely no sense. What does that mean? There is a reason why people collectively have decided not to easily assist suicide. You know what the major reason is? It's fucking religion. It's deluded, silly psychology. It's idiotic philosophies that say if you commit suicide, you're basically validating a conflicting philosophy to mine. And I'm not going to let you have a conflicting philosophy to mine that's validated. The reason why there's laws against suicide are the same reasons why there's laws against gays getting married, and the same reason there's laws against abortion. It's because of a fucking bigotry, and you just celebrated it. You just said those reasons are somehow valid, that there's something genuine and real and meaningful and sensitive and caring. No, it's anti-caring. There's laws against goddamn suicide because people are sadistic, petty, motherfucking pieces of shit who don't give a motherfucking damn about other people's welfare. They just give a damn about their own social status and the status of their fucking phantasmagorical, faggoty, impossible nonsense belief system. They have a silly, idiotic notion of what life is, and they're afraid that if it gains any credibility at all, if it's given any social sanction at all, alright, they'll be revealed for the emperor without any fucking clothes that they goddamn are. And that's the fucking truth, and you just celebrated that goddamn truth. Brav the fucko atheist. Ha 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 ha! in psychology it is established. So now that we have this established, and they have shown, and now we have established that there are crises in one life, psychological states, suicide, which can be reversed. Yeah, and I could, duh. You don't think that it can also go the other way? That you could take somebody who's in a horrible, debilitated circumstance, and you could have a half-hour conversation with them and make them feel pretty good about just getting it over with? Duh. 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 I mean, you're living a fucking delusion. Wake the fuck up and smell reality. Ugh. These trite, trivial goddamn people and their claim that they're doing something stoic, magnificent, profound. No, you're being fucking children. You're being deluded little fairy book children. You won't even concede that life is in the best of circumstances, when you have all the money and you have the ballroom and the pretty dresses and all the good stuff and the music and the blah blah blah, life still is crude, sloppy, messy, and stinky. And only for brief moments can you give it the appearance like it's actually functioning. And that's under the best of times. Alright, under the best of times, life is pretty much just a whitewashed fraud. And I don't even want to go into the fucking worst of times. And you fuckers are just lying your way through the shit. Liars, and know what? The lie is sadistically evil. Because all you're doing is mocking other people's pain. You're stepping right the fuck over it like it doesn't exist, like you're some kind of Mother Teresa blessing people for suffering for Jesus. Fuck you.
Okay, so Laura Layla over on the Final Taboo channel has posted up some videos regarding the right to die, and I wanted to say a couple things about it and then see if I can't move the discussion over just a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't see where you moved it anywhere. I don't see where you even talked about suicide. You talked about crap.
But she was basically talking about the need for this discussion, for being able to openly raise questions and talk candidly about the value of life in such a way that people can, under certain conditions, if they have chronic pain, terminal illness.
Right, your conditions. So they don't raising their hand and saying, I don't think I want to live anymore. That's not good enough. No, you gotta make sure, because you're all afraid that somehow you're gonna raise your hand someday and say, I want to die, when you don't really want to die. Is that your frickin' argument? That you need protection from yourself? Well, how about letting me sign an agreement when I'm 18 years old and competent, saying, you know what? Fuck that shit, okay? Yeah, I don't want your insurance against contradicting myself. I mean, that's just silly, especially about something ambiguous, as you've put it, as life. I mean, it's just goddamn nonsense. Circumstances change, situations change. You're going to play some game that all we need to do is push them through the circumstance, and then they'll see some sort of, they'll re-catch the gears and get back in the game again, back in the demolition derby. Yeah, just sit on the outside for a little while, steaming and smoking, and maybe if you grind the gears a bit, you know, and you smash on the pedals for a while and turn the key on and off a bit, you can get the damn car running so it can do another 5 minutes of smashy-washy. I mean, fucking stupid, idiotic nonsense drivel. I mean, if there's any point in your life you can raise your hand and say, I don't like this shit, I don't want to be here, this place sucks. Well, then you don't belong here. The game shouldn't be goddamn played if that's one of the possibilities. If that's one of the liabilities of being alive, that you might think you're in a fucking horror house, well then maybe we shouldn't be playing the goddamn game.
Have a right to die and to get, assisted suicide. And, what would that look like in the medical world? And
Yeah, no, it would look like it as the right to the same thing that you do for a fucking animal. You humanely put it out of its misery. It's 75 cents worth of fucking chemistry that we now have to pay $70 to some asshole who's making a goddamn profit off of it. A huge profit over comforting dying animals. I mean, it's obscene that we have to go through this nonsense just to even put animals to goddamn sleep because people are so fucking fanatically insane.
you know, what would be the criteria? Who would have to be involved? Who makes the decision? And
Yeah. You can just have a fucking legal right, a living will, okay? That I would say at any point after 10 years old, you give a kid a right to say, you know what, I think the idea of leaving me in control is a good idea. I don't really think society knows what the fuck it's talking about, so I'd rather it didn't make any fucking decisions for me. Can I sign a legal paper that basically says, fuck you to your judgment, fuck you to your mommy state, fuck you to your goddamn interference in my goddamn philosophical existence? Fuck you. I will invest my welfare in my judgment. Now, you want to talk about social welfare and social plans and social obligations, fine. But I have no social obligation to think life is fancy-pantsy, stoic, push boulders up hills for no fucking goddamn good reason sensible. No, I have a right to think it's goddamn insensible, stupid, and idiotic. Fucker. And I'd like the legal right to just sign a piece of paper saying, fuck you and your goddamn arrogance to think that you're going to judge me. Fuck you.
try to open that and to say that this is a way of respecting life and valuing life. And she was trying to add...
Oh, respecting life and valuing life. Yeah, so the most important constituent of life, which is suffering, which is the only reason why we do anything, is to ameliorate suffering, to prevent suffering, to avoid suffering. We spend trillions of dollars researching diseases to avoid suffering. No, let's just ignore that. Oh, fuck.
You know, how is this different than, and how important are some of the distinctions of this from just suicide per se, you know, the right to die rather than just the right to suicide, and what are the fine distinctions there, and then how is that even further distinct from some of these philosophies like...
Well, there are no distinctions. I mean, anytime you are proactively acting on your death and modifying it, you could technically call it suicide, but does it fucking goddamn matter? Does it matter what you call it? Does it matter? The point is an individual decides for themselves when their life has a quality worth maintaining. Is that this fucking complicated? And when do people like you, little cunt bastards, have a right to tell people they have an obligation to society to hold up the reputation of society and pretend they're not wasting their suffering? Pretend that they're not just throwing it in the goddamn trash for no goddamn reason, that they're just making something bad for no reason. Let's make some friction for the fun of it. Let's waste energy. Yeah, because energy isn't valuable. Energy doesn't make anything happen. No, let's just waste some. Why? Oh, because we have a planet with 7 billion people on it, and we're all fucking goddamn worried that some asshole homeless lunatic isn't going to stay or hang around and be an asshole useless lunatic for another 10 years. Oh my God, what a fucking travesty.
Antinatalism and ephilism. Well, it's gotten a lot of cross traffic and other kinds of issues. I think what I want to do is just, one is to chime in and say, I think that is really the discussion to have. I think more people ought to be really moving into the right to die discussion and what is...
Yeah. People just keep moving into it with much. Let's just come up with a rational policy that's fair to both society and people. If your interest is protecting yourselves from some day where you're going to contradict your own philosophy and say something, you're going to go crazy and say something crazy and stupid, and we have to prevent you from acting on your own volition, and we have to somehow put barriers. We have to put you in a cage because you can't control yourself. Okay, if that's your fucking fear, then guess what? You can sign a piece of paper saying, I want society to intervene and judge me, judge my philosophy, judge the integrity of my belief system, and evaluate me to make sure I'm consistent with who I was when I was 16 and or who I might be when I'm 476. Because we'll just make up some new person in the future that you might be, who might be happy and wonderful, even though you're a miserable sod right now. And we'll just make those kind of comparisons, and so we'll always overturn your decision, because your decision won't be consistent with your happy pappy pill first impression of life. But fine, sign away your right, and then you have to go to a court and a judge to get your rights back, okay? You want to give away your rights, you want to give away your autonomy, you go right the fuck ahead and do that, all right? I don't want to do that. I don't think you have a right to take my rights away, all right? It's just goddamn bullshit. You're going to put me in prison because you're a criminal? Fuck you!
Cruelty, what is compassion during the final stages of life, and how does one deal with, I guess, again, some of those chronic pain issues, and the way to respectfully deal with suffering, people's wishes, and but to avoid certain kinds of impositions, and just to open that discussion. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. We ought to be able to have contracts in this damn society saying, keep your religion out of my life, keep your phantasmagorical unicorn stoic Sisyphus bullshit boulders out of my life, okay? I have no obligation to live by your idiotic dogma. Go shove your dogma up your ass. Now, if you have some kind of rational argument to make to me when I owe society something because society gave me something and I got to pay it back before I get the fuck out of here, I got some debt or something to pay, well, then maybe you have an obligation to force me to hang around and pay back my goddamn debt. But you got no right to do it unless I have some obligation to you motherfuckers, which I goddamn motherfucking don't have. Fuck you and your fucking sick, disgusting Sisyphus boulder bullshit game.
But the larger thought that really came through as I listened to Laura Layla, and I really enjoyed some of her videos there, but it was, I think one of the issues that needs to be talked more about is what could be called, we'll call it the asymmetry of meaning. Yeah, it seems like meaning has an asymmetry when compared to suffering.
Yeah, that makes all kinds of sense, right? So somehow they don't match. Suffering doesn't connect to meaning directly. It doesn't connect to meaning in some kind of reasonable, rational, just quite obvious way. The balance isn't quite obvious, that all meaning is created about preventing harm happening to a sentient being. That somehow that's not the reasonable perception, that's not the common perception, that's somehow some sort of wacky-packy, crappy-wappy that's gotten in our way of understanding our stoic duty to push a boulder up the hill, let it run the fuck over our own skull, go crush, smush, smush, blood plop out for no good goddamn reason at all. Just so we can be a corpse on the top of a fucking hill. Brilliant. Oh, fuck, that's just so fucking obvious. I don't know how the human race has missed that. That's where the real meaning is being dead, rotting, maggot-infested shit that got run over by a stoic goddamn Sisyphus boulder. Oh, of course that's where the meaning lies. Of course it does. I'm being sarcastic if somebody doesn't really understand.
See, I take suffering. Suffering is something that just happens. It just happens.
Blah, 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 blah. That justifies it. It just happens. Therefore, it's good. So if I puke on my fucking keyboard right now, it's all okay because it's a natural puke. Okay, it just fucking happens. Who cares? La 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 la. Let's build a trophy, a monument to it. Let's build a big fat 500,000 foot puke. Let's monument puke. Yeah, it'll be really cool. Let's have a real AIDS memorial, all right, where we actually show the dilapidated, dying human. It'll be really cool. Everybody will love it. It'll be fucking charming. Because, oh, well, it just happens. Let's celebrate everything that just happens.
Happens to you. You don't have to do anything. Now, you can do things. You can go out, you can engage in risky behavior, you can do things that are going to bring harm to you and to other people, and you can do things that for what you're really getting out of it, it seems too risky, too costly, and we can shake a finger at it and we can give up.
Yeah, yeah. You can do that. Why? Why should you bother doing that? I mean, if it doesn't affect you, why is it your business? I mean, you assholes want to go climb mountains and die. It's okay with me. I mean, I just don't want society to waste money go getting your corpse. That's my only gripe. All right, you want to get in a boat and get lost in the ocean and drown, well, that's your fucking problem. I don't want to spend for a Coast Guard to go looking for you. Fuck you is all I got to say to that. You want to be a risk taker? Well, then die. You know, but I'm not cleaning it up. Go do it where we don't have to clean you up.
All kinds of examples of that. But that's not really the point. The point is that you suffer whether you do anything or not. You could.
Well, again, so you just said something that's just trite, silly, nonsensical. You just explained that there's a huge amount of variability, that we can control a huge amount of the risk-taking and marginalize the amount of suffering that will be endured. And then you just say, it doesn't matter, you can't control it, it's going to be there anyway. No, it's not.
Try to live your life as safely as you could, to live it, encased under glass.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You could do that, and then you could rationally orchestrate your death so you don't have a single bad moment during it. You just think about all the good times in your life, take the proper medication, slide off. There's a moment in the movie Soylent Green. The scientist guy decides it's time to go, and he goes to the euthanizing center, and they give him 3D visions of a beautiful earth and a beautiful music, and he just drifts off peacefully to the oblivion. Perfectly rational, perfectly sensible way to deal with the situation of pointless and wasted suffering. But yeah, somehow this is a complicated subject. No, it's not complicated. It's dirt fucking simple, and you assholes just keep making the water muddy because you gotta make everything ambiguous and complicated. That's the only way you can sell lies, is you have to have enough fog where people can't see anything, they can't know anything, just can keep them confused and off balance so you can make your little dust philosophy have meaning and weight.
And you're still going to age, you're going to get sick, you're going to have various forms of illness, maybe rare diseases.
Yeah, and I'm not going to have any of those things be a liability because people people who won't give me the right to make the judgment about whether or not that's worth enduring. Period. I should have the choice to say, well, that sounds pretty stupid to me. Why the fuck would I sign up for that? Why would I play a game that says, called Trapdoor? You have AIDS. Whoops, trapdoor. Oops, you have meningitis. Whoops, trapdoor, you have flesh-eating disease. Trapdoor. Oops, why would I play that game? I'm not stupid enough to play it. I'm not stupid enough to volunteer to play Trapdoor. You want to play Trapdoor? Play it with yourself all the fuck day long. Don't take away your own rights. Psychobabble your own existence. Play, torture yourself for eternity. I don't give a motherfuck. What I give a fuck about is this attitude that somehow I'm obligated to play a stupid game because you're playing it. Now that's just fucking sucks. That just makes you a little tiny person. A little person of low, little tiny character. Oh, we can't play the game if Gary don't play. Fuck you.
You're going to watch loved ones die, suffer, and so there's some sense in which suffering just happens to you.
Oh, whatever. It just happens. It's just a condition. Everybody, don't pay attention. Yes, we're playing Trapdoor. Yes, there's trapdoors, but don't pay attention to the trapdoors. Do you see how stupid this is? You're playing a game that's just loaded with liability, a lack of control, surprise endings, and you're just sitting there saying everybody should somehow see that as sensible. And that the rational fucking thing should be, why are we playing this again? Why the fuck are we doing this?
And even if, the toothache of another person can't readily be seen, there is, I think, a recognition of the pain of others, and at the very least, it's that suffering comes without any effort, without any intention.
I mean, there's this idea of somebody recognizing my suffering if they're going to recognize it in your way. That's like having Mother Teresa recognize my suffering. You know how much I don't want Mother Teresa to recognize my suffering? Because she's going to call it Jesus food. I mean, she's going to come up with some kind of crap to sit there and say that somehow this suffering is something great. And it's not. It's disgusting. It's evil. It's nasty. It's a fucking ball of absolute goddamn shit. And you jackasses are sitting there glorifying and painting smiley faces on it. You fucking lunatics.
Your own behalf. When you move to meaning, though, it isn't anything like that.
No,
In order to get meaning, you have to have goals. You have to actively engage in the world. It's not a spectator process. You can't just...
I mean, really. I mean, it's just... You have to have goals. What kind of goals do human beings have? The most admirable goals are ones that are associated with great social goods that end up creating... freeing the slaves or something, that end up relieving people of burden and suffering. I mean, those are the goals people admire most. And unfortunately, way too many people admire silly things like, I won a gold medal. But what the fuck?
Sit and observe meaningfulness in the way that you can sit and observe your own suffering and pain. Your pain will happen to you, and as it's happening to you, you will just watch it. But meaningfulness comes from actively engaging in the world, trying to grow oneself, trying to cultivate oneself, meeting...
Yeah, well, again, these are your problems, okay? I was grown and cultivated by the time I was 18 years old, all right? I already done my growing up and cultivating. So I'm sorry you people have, it takes your whole fucking lifetime to figure out what planet you're on. But it's not that fucking complicated. It really the fuck isn't. It's a DNA molecule replicating, creating eccentric psychologies that worm through a humus of dead matter. That's what we do, okay, to achieve egocentric, competitive goals that have absolutely no reason to exist except the fact that we are built to survive. And this is the obligation of a survival organism. In the history of mankind, it's obviously required them to be aggressive, possessive, and obsessive. Yeah. So why are you turning this reality into this fable of purpose?
The world's resistances through whether it's athletics or through artistic engagements. It could be through study, it could be through conversation, it could be through forms of social justice.
Oh yeah, whatever. It could be through destroying all life on Earth. Yeah, that's a kick-ass accomplishment, man, if you can get that job done. Okay, sanitize the blight. Mr. Clean. Be Mr. Clean. Okay, yeah, the greatest Mr. Clean ever. Mr. Clean in a Superman suit. Not only white, but, white with a cape and the whole deal.
But it seems that so many people, they find life's meaningfulness through engaging in the world, through having purposes and goals, through trying to tread...
What does this trite have to do with anything? I mean, really, this is just trite. This is drivel. So I'm in a hospital bed, paralyzed from the neck down. Everything I cared about doing in my life, everything meaningful to me is gone, okay? And you're going to sit there and preach this crap at me? No, the obvious solution is it's time to get the fuck out of here. Let the fucker go.
Transcend themselves and their own petty concerns by...
Well, okay, so there we go. Petty concerns. So the 1 million people who killed themselves this year, they're just petty concern people. They just got a bunch of petty concerns. I mean, this is just so fucking evil.
Alleviating the suffering of others, actively engaging in problem solving that really does help others, that makes the world a better place.
Oh, well, I guess if I could prevent the birth of a bunch of psychotic morons, that would be helping the world, right? And most of the people who are reproducing, I think, could be qualified as psychotic morons. I mean, they have a lunatic understanding of the universe. They don't know what planet they're fucking on. They think they're going to go to some hell where snakes are going to bite them for eternity, or spit at them or something. Call them bad, nasty words. I mean, fuck you.
It's like meaningfulness comes only through effort, through actual physical attempts at, purposes that transcend one's own physical bodily concerns, one's own comforts and conveniences.
Well, it really depends on where you're at, okay? I mean, if I got cerebral palsy, it's going to be a great accomplishment if I figure out how to make my body walk. That's going to be hella meaningful. So this is just bullshit. Not all meaning is derived through is circumstantial. And yeah, it's obviously great if you can have a meaning where I'm just saying, are you saying it wouldn't be meaningful if somebody fights for this right to die thing and they get rational legislation that enables people to say, I want my autonomy, I want the right to die, and we have some sort of rational capacity to get the hell out efficiently, and we save trillions of dollars in medical expenses that now can be devoted to people who actually want to live, and that we can make society so much more efficient, and there's a net benefit, a quotient of net suffering prevented in the trillions of mega souls worth of suffering. We save trillions of mega souls worth of suffering. That wouldn't be a meaningful accomplishment because it's anti-life? Fuck you.
And I think once you start to think about that asymmetry, about the fact that meaningfulness can be elusive and, if anything...
No, it's fucking goddamn obvious. You've done something meaningful as soon as you stop a sentient being from being harmed as the net product of an action, which the net is always the tricky part, right? Because if I save the cat, it eats a mouse and causes suffering, so maybe I shouldn't save the cat, but I'm not going to get into a whole argument about it. We know the basic theme, which is something's in harm's way, and you get the fuck out of harm's way, and that's goddamn meaningful. Not that fucking complicated.
It's something that is one in the world as one achieves and strives and sets goals and tries to bring about justice, which is very different.
Which tries to bring about justice. There's no evidence of any mass of the human population doing any of that kind of shit anyway. So this is all pie in the sky, bibble babble, mushy nonsense from a bunch of people who do nothing but, who sit there and promise it like it's out there. Oh yeah, someday somebody's going to fix the world. Let's just not do it yet because I got the credit card debt.
Different than the kind of happenstance of suffering. And so I think, to me, part of it is more discussion would need to go on about that. What does that mean? It means that suffering is part of the price that one pays to live, and there's no way out.
Yeah, yeah, right. There's no way out. Of course there are ways out. There's ways to have more or less of it. It's just silly to keep saying there's no way. There's an obvious way. That's what we're discussing, is the obvious way out. So this is just fucking stupid. This is fucking stupid. We can control it, and the only thing that's in its way is your delusion, Professor. Your delusion that it matters how many years a person lives. That somehow that's important here. How many years you live, how long you live is the important thing. That's all you're saying. It's not the quality of your life. It's not the quality of your life experience that matters. It's how long each individual lives. We know people are dying right now for fucking pennies, you fucktard. Why waste the money on people who are wishy-washy about their existence when there's somebody else in the world who really, 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 really wants to survive and they can't because they don't have 58 fucking cents? You make sense out of that, shithead. Alright, there's no fucking... human beings are unique, but they're not rare. This is an important truth. Consciousness is not a rare commodity. You don't need to preserve every little kernel of consciousness. You don't need to do that. It's a waste of goddamn resources. And this whole conversation is just idiotic. The simple solution is when the toaster isn't toasting bread, when it isn't fucking working, you throw it the fuck in the garbage and you invest in a new toaster. That's the rational fucking thing to do.
I guess in some way of that. We have medications, there have been great advances in pain relief through modern science, but there's always going to be forms of of anxiety and stress and hardship and loss and pain and suffering. There's always going to be.
Yeah, but they're all not the same thing. So again, we know that there's a huge difference between, oh, I got a headache or blah blah blah, and fucking dying of something and some horrible disease and some horrible chronic condition. And all this technology shit, actually, I don't see much in it because all these new medications are so debilitating that, I'm still falling back on the old reliable aspirin. So from my perspective, not much progress has been made in 80 years.
These sorts of things in our lives, but the way that one can try to take such hefty costs and make them more worthwhile isn't something that'll just happen to you. It's not like
hefty costs and make them worthwhile. So first he's saying we have to endure the cost for no good reason. And then he's saying we'll just make up some kind of lie to make it worthwhile. We'll just say that somehow the cotton candy machine it's okay if it catches a few sleeves or something and eats a few people now and then. It's okay. It's a little blood in your cotton candy is fun.
Meaningfulness will fall in your lap in the way that suffering will, but you can try to, I guess, lessen the cost.
Well, this whole meaningfulness thing, like somehow it's up to you get to define it and describe it. No, the reality is you have a net impact on the world. All right, and my argument to you, Professor, smiling Professor, happy Professor, is that your net impact is completely dependent on how you affect the world, how you affect the balance of suffering. All right, so if you're going to create a world where more suffering is going to be endured, in my opinion, that's called a failed life. It's not a meaningful life. It's called an evil waste. It's called it's called destructive. You are destructo. This kind of bibble babble that encourages people to accept nonsense and rubbish and waste. Accept the waste of your suffering. Accept the wastefulness of it. Throw it away. Squander it. Squander the commodity of suffering. I mean, there can't be any kind of mantra sillier and stupider than that. Why you shouldn't squander one goddamn millisecond of it. It's the only thing that has value here. Your life doesn't mean shit. The suffering means something.
Of that suffering by enriching the value of the gift that you get in life.
The gift that you get. So this kind of rhetoric is something people with a brain are supposed to accept. I mean, it's disgusting that atheists can find this food for the food. This is food for gods. It isn't food for atheists.
The more actively you can engage in the world, and by that I mean come to new ranges of self-understanding, new ranges of, I guess, dealing with others, recognizing...
What does any of that ambiguous mishy-mush really come down to? What? What are people supposed to do? I mean, you don't turn into any kind of policy. You don't say a goddamn thing. You just say some mushy blah, blah, blah. The more people do the peopleizing of the population of the people is, the more peopleistic we will become. We will become, it'll be complete peopleosity. We will reach complete peopleoscopy. I mean, it's just bullshit. I mean, you gotta qualify this into some kind of fucking behavior, some kind of real world behavior. In my opinion, the best thing you can do in this world is not only respect other people, respect their capacity to suffer, respect their right to control their physical body and their physical destiny. Yeah, those are big ones. And you people ain't doing that.
New capacities for compassion with others and being more concerned about...
Yeah, the compassion of what? Well, let's give him an infinite number of psychological tests to see if he has a right to act on his own volition. Fuck you!
Social justice and trying to help others in a compassionate way, then we're...
Yeah, right. Help others by force-feeding them. Thank you very much, but no fucking thank you!
About your own animal-like conveniences I think.
Yeah, so one minute we're supposed to be animals, the next minute we're not supposed to be animals. Isn't that convenient? You talk about conveniences, this is one of the most convenient plot flaws of your bullshit, is when you want to, when it's to your advantage to use nature, you paint everything with your little sunshine and Tweety birds, and then when nature is the goddamn problem, then you're ridiculing it. I mean, this fucking, there's the asymmetry. The asymmetries between your philosophy and your philosophy. That's what you ought to do a video about. The asymmetries between Professor Anton and Professor Anton.
These are strategies that I would love to hear more people talk about, and I can't say enough about the asymmetry, I guess, between meaningfulness and suffering.
Yeah, right. Well, again, I'm going to say, if you want to have a meaningful life or a useful life or a purposeful life, well, then you've got to operate, you've got to function in the currency of suffering. You've got to function in the currency of providing comfort to sentient beings on this planet. Because otherwise, if you're not operating that currency, if you're not understanding that currency, you're going to burn suffering. You're going to wipe it. You're going to waste it. You're going to squander it. You're going to pile up a huge debt, a huge liability of harm and destruction that you're going to impose on the world if you don't know what the currency of suffering is.